Donnie and Dolly, the team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
On the line right now, the man who drafted Daniel and Henrik Sedin back in 1999 for the Vancouver Canucks, now the Pittsburgh Penguins, president of hockey operations, our old friend Brian Burke. Brian, thanks for doing this, sir. How are you?
Good, guys. Thanks for having me on.
No problem, no problem. I'm going to go through this list here. Just bear with me for a second. You've had to do that a lot through the years. This is how it went down. Traded Brian McCabe and a first-round pick in 2000 to Chicago for a fourth pick for the fourth pick in 1999. You sent that fourth pick plus 2 third-rounders to Tampa for the first overall pick. Made a deal with Atlanta, trading the first pick overall for the second pick overall and a conditional third-rounder in 2000. We're almost out of time here, but that's a lot of work, Brian. How much of that was planned in order to get the Sedins? How much of it was on the fly?
Well, let me, because I don't want to forget to thank the right guys.
Okay.
I mean, Thomas Gradin was the guy that pushed hardest for this. And Mark Crawford's the guy that turned them into players. So I hate doing interviews, and no one ever asks me about them, and I forget once in a while. So I want to mention those two. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, you've got the sequence right, and it was a lot of work that went into it, but those deals all happened except the first deal where we got the Chicago first rounder for Brian McCabe. And I was sick over that, trading Brian McCabe. I loved him as a player. I still do. But anyway, that was the deal that triggered. That was done on Father's Day, the Sunday before the draft, or maybe it might even been the Monday or Tuesday. It was well before the first day of the draft, but we didn't register the deal. I shook hands with Bob Murray on the deal. I thought I'd have more pressure with Tampa if they didn't know that I had the other pick. It turned out to go the other way, but 2 nights before the draft, I told them, or the night before the draft I told Rick Dudley that we had the other pick. We had 3 and 4, and no one was leaving with two twins except me. So, but it all happened on the floor. Other than that first trade, the deal with Dudley happened on the floor. The two thirds and the 4th overall pick to Tampa for the first overall pick, that happened on the floor, and then the deal with Donnie Waddell happened on the floor.
You mentioned Thomas Gradin, Brian, and I think I've got this story right as well. Didn't Thomas have to convince you to not give up on Daniel and Henrik?
Yeah, he did. We saw him at the World Juniors in Winnipeg, and the Twins were there, and everyone's talking about the Twins and the Twins and the Twins, and so I went in and watched them. And they had a couple really good games, but they scored all their points against, Algeria and countries like that. They didn't against Canada and the U.S. Against Canada and the U.S., they did nothing. They got knocked on their ass all night. So I told our players when we left there, I'm trading this pick. I hate this first round. If you look, Downey, at the first round in 1999, it's the worst first round in the history of the National Hockey League. There's players on there who never played a game. The second round was actually better than the first round. And that's why teams were willing to move picks. That's why we were able to do this, not because I'm some genius.
Brian, I want to ask you about the Twins off the ice. We all know the magic on the ice, but what we're getting a lot in the last 48 hours is these guys were great human beings as well, Brian. Yeah, Rick, they are. You're using past tense like they're dead or something. They are great human beings. Yeah. I mean, they won the King Clancy Award. You got to realize there's 32 teams in the National Hockey League. When they won the King Clancy, maybe 30, maybe before Vegas and Seattle. So 30 teams, and we're in a sport that's blessed by being filled with people that care about the community and give back. So the King Clancy Award, you got to get in a fist fight with other top people to win that award, to be acknowledged as being a premier leader in the community area. You got to elbow people out of the way to win that award, and they won it together. So that's saying that all these great human beings that play this game and all the charity work they do, you two are being singled out. They gave $1.5 million to the BC Children's Hospital for a neonatal clinic and some imaging equipment. They asked that be done privately. They were just going to write a check for $750,000 each and donate it to BC Children's Hospital anonymously.
And the hospital went to them and said, someone from the hospital told me this, so there's no question in my mind it's true. Went to them and said, if you make this gift public, we can multiply it by 100. By people say, that's amazing, I want to write a check too. And so that's why they went public with it. These two kids were going to make that donation anonymously. So everything you see about them, I only had them for a year or two, remember this.
Yeah.
I got fired before they played much for me, but I remember going to Canuck Place and seeing them there early in the morning. I remember one morning I saw Matthias Olin and the Twins there. Practice wasn't until 10:30, and at 8 o'clock the Twins were there with Matthias Olin working on something with some of the kids. Just unbelievable, these kids. Unreal.
Brian, you give Mark Crawford credit. I remember early they struggled, and there was a game in Dallas where Mark healthy scratched one of them. I think it was Daniel. How did Crawford get to them and make them better?
Well, the first thing was, and people forget this, everyone thinks Mark Crawford's an impatient guy because he wanted to win. He was so patient with the Twins. He would tell them they make a mistake, they get beat on a play, they get knocked down, and come back on a 3-on-1. And he would say to them, I'm throwing you right back out there. I remember there was a game where we lost, and the interviewer, whoever it was in the media room, said to him, why do you keep throwing them back out there? And Crow was clearly, visibly impatient and angry with the question. He said, are you not watching what these kids are going to be? They're going to be stars. He knew way back then. He said, I got to keep throwing them out there because they just keep getting better. They never get scored on. They work like dogs, and they're just going to get better. So I think Mark Crawford deserves a lot of credit. 90%. When you turn into that kind of a player, 90% of the credit goes to the player himself because of their dedication and their commitment. But the rest of it, Mark Crawford's got to be acknowledged too.
Hey, Brian, you touched on this, but you left the Canucks in 2004. Was it tough to watch their success from a distance?
Yeah. I mean, these bastards, they came in one night to Maple Leaf Gardens or whatever we were then, Scotiabank Arena. We might have Air Canada Center, I think we were then.
Yes.
And they scored 7 points, I think, to beat us. And I saw them both after the game. I said, really? Do you have to do that? I drafted you two, and this is what you do? 7 points. We got absolutely spanked. So, yeah, they used to play very well against my old teams. And I think there was partly that they just wanted to say, we want to make sure people know that you were right when you drafted us, where you drafted us. So I'll tell you a story. I have 2 sweaters in the back of my house here in Toronto. I still have a home here and a home in Pittsburgh. Mm-hmm. And 2 days after they retired, I got autographed sweaters from both Twins. Thank you for making our journey possible. Thank you for getting everything started. I never asked them for those. Someone just went and told them and signed them and got them in the mail. They were couriered here. So I literally got them 2 days after their last game. I opened up. I couldn't believe it. I never asked them for that, didn't expect it. They're hanging on my wall now.
You mentioned Pittsburgh, Brian. How's life in Pittsburgh?
Well, it's a wonderful city. I don't think the average person in Vancouver spends any time in Pittsburgh, and they don't know what a gem it is. It's a great city. It's a great place to live. People are amazing.
Do you expect to keep Letang and Malkin?
Well, it depends. They're going to come in for money that makes sense, or they're going to leave. Mm-hmm. It's very simple in my mind.
Brian, Patrick Alvin came to Vancouver from the Pittsburgh Penguins. What can you tell us about him? He's only been here a short time, Brian, but what were your thoughts on Alvin?
Well, he's cheap, first off. You guys should know I never saw him pay for anything while I worked with him. So he'll fit right in with everyone in the GM job. Patrick, I had a chance to work very close with him. Our offices are right across the other. I'll tell you a story that'll tell you a lot about Patrick Alvin. We started. We're new guys. So right away, everyone thinks, if you're Patrick Alvin, you're thinking, well, my job's at risk. Jimmy Rutherford's gone. Hextall's here. Burke's here. They're getting rid of me. And I said to him, we've done everywhere. You guys know this. Donnie, you in particular know this. I've never cleaned house anywhere. Mm-hmm. I've gone in and given everyone a chance. So I said to Patrick, don't worry about anything here. We're happy to have you here. He said, just right up to me and Hexie both, he said, as long as you guys understand, I'm always going to tell you the truth. I don't care if you like it. I don't care if you agree with it. I'm going to always tell you what I think. So that was the first day on the job where he had a chance to stand up and be counted, and he was. So I think he'll do a great job there. He's a good guy. He works very hard. I think he's got a real good chance to be successful there. I like him a lot.
Brian, on behalf of everybody in Vancouver, I know people here would like to thank you for drafting, and we would like to thank Mark and Thomas as well for drafting and working with the Sedins. All the best, my friend.
Thanks, Donnie. See you, Rick.
Yeah, all right, Brian.
You bet. Brian Burke, Pittsburgh Penguins president of hockey operations.